Hey guys, it's Heather and I am here making black raspberry vanilla bath bombs. I am using Lone Star's black raspberry vanilla type fragrance. It's their scent number 0124 and it smells incredible. You can really smell the berry fragrance. It definitely has that kick of berry that I absolutely love. And sorry, I'm trying not to be super loud while I'm getting everything out. But I also wanted to go over some information with you guys and kind of answer some questions that I've gotten recently that I think that would be helpful for people who watch my videos. While I'm talking about that, remember to hit the subscribe button and then hit the little bell that's on the side over here, because I found out that if you don't hit the bell, even if you're subscribed, you won't get the notifications for the videos anymore. They won't show up in your feed anymore. So you have to hit that little bell and subscribe to be able to see the videos and get reminders. Also, leave me a comment down below. That helps me out. It helps me to know what you guys want to see, what you don't want to see. Ask me questions because I like answering questions. I am happy to do it. So first thing we're going to talk about is what goes into making a bath bomb and why I don't put the actual recipe in my bath bomb videos. And there's a very good reason for that. But first, let's start with our baking soda. And I'm weighing out my ingredients. They are on a scale. And I know approximately in cups how much I need, but I like to make sure it's an accurate measurement. Make sure when you're doing this that you're wearing a mask, because prolonged breathing in of all these powders is never good for you. I put baking soda in. Baking soda is your primary ingredient for making bath bombs. Your second primary ingredient is citric acid. I get mine from Wholesale Supplies. That is what actually makes up your bath bomb. Your baking soda and your citric acid. It's usually a 2-to-1 ratio. If you want a really good video to watch, look at Divinely Designs on YouTube. He does fantastic videos. He even does a comparison video between 1-to-1 ratio, 2-to-1 ratio, 3-to-1 ratio, 1.5 ratio. He's really great about explaining those things. And he even gives some recipes. But just like with anyone else, when you give out a recipe, you always have to have a disclaimer that says may work differently in different climates. It's up to your environment, because it's a science. I will say that is your biggest thing to figure out when making bath bombs, is that ratio. And of course, if you make bath bomb embeds, then your ratio will be different from your embeds usually than from your actual bath bomb mix. And then we add other items to our mixtures for different reasons: to soften the water, to help with the skin, for moisture, for the foaming effect of bath bombs. And like I said, for my basic bath bomb recipe, it's basically a 2-to-1 ratio. I sift out my ingredients because I don't want any big lumps, because that can cause your bath bombs to kind of wart up on you. And that just makes them not as pretty. And I'm going to do a 2-color bath bomb, so I have another bowl over here. Let me get I'm using buttermilk powder. Buttermilk powder gives you the foam in your bath bomb. There we go. Now it's zeroed out. You can use things like SLS, SLSA, SCI, which are all kind of bubbling agents that you can use, but buttermilk works for foaming properties. It won't give you bubbles in your bath technically, but it will give a foam to your bath bomb. And I like to clean up as I go, so I'm putting my ingredients away as I'm going through the process. Next up is cornstarch. Cornstarch is a water softener. Some bath bomb mixes may use more cornstarch. A lot of times if it's an inexpensive bath bomb, there's a lot of cornstarch because they use it as a filler, but I only use what I need to use. Oh, that was perfect. Awesome. I only use exactly what I need to soften the water. I don't want to overfill the bath bomb because it will also make it fizz a little bit faster if you do it that way. And again, I sift everything just to get all those lumps and bumps out. It also makes it easier when you're combining everything. And then we've got Epsom salt. Now, depending on the bath bombs I'm making, depends on if I grind up my Epsom salt first. Because sometimes I will finely grind it. And sometimes I'll leave it whole. This happens to be whole Epsom salt. It's really good for your skin. I'm using different size measuring cups, not really because I'm using that measure, but because it fits inside my container, and sometimes because I know relatively cups and teaspoons and things like that, but it's more because it's what fits in the container that I'm using. And I sift my Epsom salt as well because it is really likely to clump up on you. And also I want to make sure that they're not too big of grains. If there are too many really big grains, then I don't think it's as pretty. So again, we've got 2-to-1 ratio of baking soda and citric acid. We have, and that is what makes the bath bombs bubble. We have milk powder for our foam. We have cornstarch to soften the water, Epsom salt, which is just really good for your skin, for sore muscles, stuff like that. Next up is Poly 80 and avocado oil. I like to use avocado oil because of those moisturizing properties. And the Poly 80 is in there because it helps to mix those oils and butters in with your water as well as the colorant. And it helps to keep colorant from sticking to the sides of your bathtub. Sorry, I had to take a phone call. So we're back. I am just blending this in really well. I have not put in my Poly 80 yet. I am just making sure that all of my ingredients are well blended together. Now, I use buttermilk in my bath bombs. It does add sort of a cream color. I've used regular powdered milk in the past. I've also used goat's milk depending on the bath bomb. That just sort of is up to you and what you want out of your bath bomb. Okay, now Poly 80. You don't want to use too much Poly 80. It also, by the way, helps with the foaming. So it helps disperse your oils, your colorant, but it also helps to foam the bath bomb a little bit. And it makes your bath bomb last a little bit longer in the water. It slows down the fizz time a bit. Okay, next up is avocado oil. And of course, that's for the moisturizing properties. And that's something I'll say too, when you don't really have extra added butters or oils, they're still beautiful bath bombs, but they're not nearly as good for your skin as a bath bomb with butters and oils would be. Now, while I'm mixing this, I will give you guys kind of my reasoning for why I don't share my recipes, my exact recipes and numbers. And that is because depending on where you live, depends on what is going to work with for you. A drier bath bomb, a more wet bath bomb, a solid butter versus an oil, your 2-to-1 ratio, 1-to-1 ratio, all of those things you have to take into consideration. I was not able to make bath bombs for 2 weeks because it was raining here and I live in Tennessee. And so far in the last few weeks, we have had torrential flood rains. We've had 30-degree weather, 80-degree weather. Yesterday it was snowing and today it's going to be in the 70s. So it's been crazy weather, but the humidity, oddly enough, even with the snow yesterday and the heat today, is not so bad that I can't make bath bombs today. But last week I tried to make bath bombs and they all fizzed out on me overnight because there was so much moisture in the air. And so it genuinely depends on your environment. It depends on the humidity because it is a science. It is, if you had a clean room where your temperature was regulated, where the humidity is regulated, where you didn't have to worry about those outside factors, the same recipe would work for everybody. But since that's not how we usually make bath bombs, it just depends. And so if you ask me for a recipe and I don't give you one, it's not because I'm being mean. It's because I don't want to give you a recipe that may not work for you. But I will give you links to recipes on Wholesale Supplies Plus or Nature's Garden or Brambleberry that may work for you. And the thing is, I have some recipes from Brambleberry that I've tried that have not at all worked for me because of the humidity level in my area. Whereas I've had recipes from Nature's Garden Candles that have worked like a charm for me because the humidity level was similar. And same goes for Wholesale Supplies Plus. It's always important to know the things you can do to edit a recipe, to work around humidity. Sometimes if you add clay, things will harden faster and not activate on you. Sometimes if you add more of one ingredient or less of another ingredient, it may not activate on you. And they're all things that are trial and error. you don't have an exact measure for those things. Second reason that I don't give out recipes is because it takes a long time to develop your recipe. My soap recipe has taken me 16 years to get just right and exactly the way I want it to be. This is the fragrance oil. Always follow the manufacturer's instructions on how much to use. Always make sure you're using skin safe fragrance oil, not the stuff you might buy at the store that's only meant for fragrancing the air. I'm going to mix this in really, really well. I always put less fragrance oil just in case it needs more, but I don't want to ever over fragrance my bath bombs. But yeah, like my soap recipe, it took me 16 years to come up with the recipe that I use today. So I'm happy to show how to do things, to explain why I use certain ingredients. But when it takes you that long and it's blood, sweat, and tears and pounds and pounds and pounds of soap that only your family uses, it's kind of hard to separate all of that work and then just hand over that recipe. But add to it, that also depends on what you want out of a soap. What I want out of a soap and what my customers want out of a soap may be different than what you do. And that's a trial and error as well. Oh, this smells so good. I think I'm going to add just a tiny bit more. About 2 milliliters. But yeah, so it's not me trying to be mean, you guys, if I don't give you an exact recipe, or if I don't, sometimes I won't respond if somebody's being super rude, or very rarely will I delete a comment. Because I know that some people just don't know that that's not necessarily the best question to ask someone who's been working really hard for years and years to develop the recipe, because you do see a lot of people that give recipes. But I will say this, some of the recipes that you see, not all, but some of the recipes that you see are the generic, you know, you add 2 cups of baking soda, 1 cup of citric acid, a teaspoon of oil, and mix it together with your colorant and use either water or rubbing alcohol and make your bath bomb. And that is the basic bath bomb recipe. But you don't really know what those ingredients do. You don't really know why you're doing it. You just know that that's the recipe. And it's important for you to know what each of your ingredients does and why you're using it, so that you know how to edit your recipe if you need to, for climate or temperature or humidity, or if someone doesn't want a bath bomb to soften their water, then you don't want to add cornstarch. All of those things factor in. Okay, I'm going to pour some of this off before I add in my witch hazel. I happen to like witch hazel more than I do isopropyl alcohol. I'm going to leave this white, and I'm going to color this purple. And I'm going to clean my space off first. A good example of editing a recipe for what you need. I know that if it's super humid and I absolutely have to make bath bombs, that I have to make them with a bath bomb press or a mooncake press. A lot of times when I use a mooncake press, like today, it's because I want that particular design. But also, mooncake presses are great when it's super humid because your bath bombs are much less likely to stay in a spherical shape, but they will stay in a pressed shape. Just want to make sure everything's nice and cleaned off. Like I said, always clean as you go. Now time to add my colorant. And this is Color Bomb Red 33 Lake Dye. It is from Nurture Soap. It is batch certified. Always use batch certified lakes or dyes when you're making your bath bombs. And Nurture is really, really great about giving you information on your colorants and your dyes, what can and can't be used, what is and isn't safe for different purposes. Like, you don't really want ultramarine blues in bath bombs, stuff you're going to sit in because it doesn't work well with mucous membranes. I'm getting my colorant off of my stick as well as kind of blending it in to see how well that color is blending. Yeah, this is going to be great. And I know, by the way, that I haven't done my soap studio tour. It's still not completely finished, and I want you guys to see it when it's all beautiful and finished. I still have some things in boxes. I love this color. Okay, I am going to blend up my white first with my witch hazel. Kind of make a little well. Love it when I mix them just right on the first go. That makes my day. When you're mixing your bath bombs, people say go to wet sand. More likely it's go to a kinetic sand, because I did watch a review recently of a bath bomb set that someone bought, and they were like, well, is it wet sand that's just been, you know, under high tide, or is it wet sand that just, you know, the water's gone over? Go for a kinetic sand consistency. You don't want it too dry, you don't want it too wet, but you want it to hold its shape when you squeeze it, so that when you make your bath bomb, it will hold its shape. I'm going to set this aside and we're going to add our witch hazel to this. I like witch hazel better than alcohol, better than water. Water makes it activate, so the idea of adding water always freaks me out because I feel like you're not going to get the full fizz that you're looking for. Now, that's just me. It's not necessarily what other bath bomb makers believe. It just happens to be how I feel. I will use alcohol if I'm out of witch hazel, but I just like the play time that I get with the witch hazel that I don't get with the evaporation of the alcohol. The witch hazel will evaporate, just not as fast. At least I feel like not as fast. And I always work fast because it still does activate a little bit. But if you work fast, you can stop that by blending and mixing. Now I have a question for you guys. I use lakes in my bath bombs. I feel like with micas, you have to use a lot more. That they tend to stick to the side of the tub, even with the Poly 80, more often than using a lake dye does. But for those of you that make bath bombs, what type of colorant do you prefer to use in your bath bombs? Because I will use mica to paint a bath bomb, and I'll use it as like a highlight color in a bath bomb, but not actually to color the water. What are your opinions on bath bomb colorants? I'd like to know. And in your area, what's the biggest problem you have when you're making bath bombs? Like I said, with me, it's humidity. Humidity kills me every time. So what are your kind of pitfalls of your bath bomb making? And maybe we can work together to help each other out with tips and tricks, because I think that would be incredible if we could have that kind of a community that can work together like that. Because I don't know everything. I learn new things every day. See, that's just so satisfying to watch when you have exactly the right consistency, how it sort of moves, just like kinetic sand. Yay. Okay. That is one thing I love about bath bombs, is I sort of play around with them because they're fun. Okay, so what I'm going to do, that way you guys can see, I have mooncake presses that I use. I have a large and a small. I also have my scale over here because I want to make sure my measurements are the same for both, or my weights are the same for both, for all of my large ones and all of my small ones. I'll get the first two, make sure they're the right size, and then we'll move on. I'll do 8 to 10 in the large, and then the remainder in the small. And then I also have, just so that you guys know, I have a couple of different glitters that I'm going to sprinkle on the tops. I don't know if you guys can see that, as I pour glitter out into my hand. Okay, I will start by filling half of my bath bomb press, then put in my other side, and then put the rest purple. And I'm kind of pressing it in because I do want it to be nice and full before I do my actual press, because it will compress even more when you press it. And you want to make sure that you're getting as close as possible to the exact same amount in every bath bomb. And by pressing it, I'm doing that. Okay, and I'm going to show you guys here how I press it. It's 1, lift, 2, and I'm kind of going back and forth and side to side, but while I'm pressing it, I'm not lifting it. And then you'll hold and press it out like that. They are really, really pretty. And now I'm going to weigh it. And pressing it like this makes it really solid. These are almost 5-ounce bath bombs. They are 4.9-ounce bath bombs. And as you go, it definitely does speed up as you're pressing everything in. Once you get going and you get used to it, you kind of know what full feels like inside the bath bomb when you're pressing it. And then press 1, press 2, and then I'm going to press it out onto my scale. Now I am pressing them on the other side of my table, and I am pressing them on freezer paper. And that is what they will sit on to dry. Okay, now I'm going to do my little one. And I've been lucky, now I say that now, and then watch, these will get stuck. Sometimes when you have a bath bomb press, you end up with your design sticking. So always keep a skewer or a toothpick close by so that you can kind of pick out those pieces that stick. And I'm going to weigh out these as well. Let's see my measurements, make sure I'm measuring them right. And you press them the same way. 1, 2, back and forth, up and down. Oh, and it's so pretty. And these are 2-ounce bath bombs. And then I will measure them again when time comes for me to package them. And to package them, they don't really have to cure so much as just fully dry. Yeah, this one's going to be my daughter's because she likes the speckledy ones that look like Easter eggs. And if you're new here, you probably don't know, but I save a bar of soap from every batch, a bath bomb from every batch, and my daughter tests them all because she is the reason that I started making soaps and bath bombs and things like that, because when she was a baby, she had an allergic reaction. And so now I test everything on her. Her skin is not nearly as sensitive as it once was, but it is still sensitive. 7 3/4 bath bomb. And even the speckledy ones are really pretty. One of the best reasons to have my bath bombs on paper is so that they're easier to move around, or to put them on a tray, but my tray is being used by other bath bombs right now. As a matter of fact, I'll grab one of those for you so that you can see what they look like. These are my pink lemonades. They're on my tray right now. I hope you guys can see it. And for any of you guys that make videos, give me some advice on how you set up your cameras, because genuinely, I do need assistance with that in a really big way. Now I'm going to do a little bit of Twinkle Lights glitter, just a little sprinkle. I don't want a ton of glitter, just a little bit. I'm going to do, I think this is Vixen. It's a more purple glitter. Ooh, that was a lot. Okay. I was kind of hoping that getting my little bitty salt and pepper shakers would help me with the spreading out of glitter. But if I'm being honest, I like the spray pumps better. But I didn't want to have to buy a spray pump for every color that I have. And so I got these adorable little salt shakers, but it still lets a little more than I'd like out. Making them nice and sparkly, and what will happen is I'll spritz these with alcohol once they've set up a bit. The glitter will kind of stick to the top once the alcohol is on it, and the excess glitter, when I go to package it, will just sort of fall off. But you can see it kind of does now, and it still leaves a good amount of glitter on there, but the excess will just sort of shake off. But they look really pretty, and I'm really excited about it. Again, you guys, don't forget to like and comment, subscribe, hit the little bell thing. I think it's down there, might be down there, but I think it's down there. Hit the little bell thing so that you'll get reminders on my videos. Ask me questions, answer questions, give me tips and tricks that you like, and I'll share mine with you guys too. This is Heather from H&P Artistry, wishing you luck, love, and an awesome day.